What's up guys, Coach Sepi here, and today we're going to look at completing the square. Completing the square is a form of completing a quadratic so that we have the two values of the minimum point of the parabola on the graph. So every quadratic can be drawn on a graph in the shape of a parabola, and every single parabola has a minimum point or a point at the bottom. And by completing the square, we can find out the coordinates of this minimum point. This is the general form for completing the square from a quadratic. So you have x plus b over 2, all of it squared, minus b over 2 squared plus c, which is the remainder. Now let's move on to an example where this becomes more clear. For this first example, we have x squared plus 6x minus 2, and they want us to put it in the form of the final completed square. So we have x squared plus 6x minus 2. We write down the form of the completed square. So we'll have x plus 6 over 2 squared minus 6 over 2 squared minus 2. This is because our b in this case is 6 and our c is minus 2. And note that we always have the minus for the minus b over 2, regardless. But the minus of the c depends on if it's negative or it's positive. If it's positive, we put plus 2. If it's negative 2, we put negative 2. And also this plus can be altered to a negative depending on what they've given us. If this was x squared minus 6x, we would put x minus 6 over 2, all of it squared. But the negative sign after the whole bracket squared will always be negative. We can simplify this now. We'll have x plus 3, because 6 over 2 is 3, x plus 3, all of it squared, minus 6 over 2 squared, which is 3 squared, minus 2. And if we simplify this, we'll have x plus 3 squared minus 9 minus 2, which is minus 11. And that is the final form of the completed square. Here you can see p is equal to 3 and q is equal to minus 11. And don't forget the negative sign. Let's move on to another example so you guys get a clearer idea of how this transition from a quadratic to a completed square works. Next we have x squared plus 10x plus 3, and they want us to write it in the form x plus a squared plus b, which is again the simplified completed square form. So we write it down, and then we identify b as 10 and c as 3. So we'll have x plus 10 over 2, which is 5, x plus 5 squared, minus 10 over 2, all of it squared, which is 5 squared, plus 3. And from here, we simplify this. Minus 5 squared is minus 25, plus 3 will give us minus 22. So the final form is x plus 5, all of it squared, minus 22. And our a in this case will be 5, and our b will be minus 22. Now we're going to move on from this to a graphical version of this question, so you guys understand how this works graphically and why we actually complete the square. So the question says, by completing the square, find the minimum point of the curve, which we discussed earlier, y equals x squared plus 10x plus 3. So firstly, we have to write down the equation and complete the square, theoretically. Luckily for us, we have already completed this in the previous question, so we already know the final answer to this. But even if you didn't have that, you can just complete the square and go forward from there. And as I mentioned earlier, the final form actually finds the coordinates of the minimum point of this curve. And you guys will see how this is represented graphically. So we'll have x plus 5 all of it squared minus 22. And then we can draw the graph. With a given parabola, since this is a quadratic equation, we know for sure it's a parabola. And you can see the minimum point of the curve is the bottom point of the parabola. Now this can be anywhere on the graph. It doesn't have to cross the y-axis, but regardless, there will always be a minimum point. And by completing the square, we have the minimum point in terms of the x and y coordinates. So the x coordinate will be inside the x plus 5 squared bracket, and the y coordinate will simply be minus 22. Now, because the x plus 5 is inside a bracket, we have to solve for the x coordinate. We have to equate it to 0. So we'll have x plus 5 all of it equal to 0, which will give us the trivial answer of x equals minus 5. And that is the final coordinate of our minimum point. Our final coordinate will be minus 5 minus 22. And as you can see, this is congruent with what's happening on the graph. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Coach Sepi, and I'm signing out, guys. Peace. What's up, guys? Hope you found that video educational. Now, if you want to completely transform your maths abilities and take it to the next level with both A-level and GCSE maths, I provide weekly one-on-one maths tutoring lessons on my Patreon, where I help you with any topic that you're struggling with in maths, and I coach you to completely transform your mindset when it comes to maths. So follow the link in the description for that. Check it out. Peace.